Henry Kroll has been a guest on my show on and off. I just love having him on. He's a wonderful man. Let me give you his bio here. He is an adventurer, aviator, miner, commercial fisherman, inventor, entrepreneur, and outstanding writer. Henry has authored several books available on Amazon.com, one of which is Cosmological Ice Ages. His website is, and both are, guarddogbooks.com and alaskapublishing.com. So please welcome Captain Henry Kroll to the show this evening. Good evening, sir.
Thank you for having me on, Solaris.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you on, Henry, and thanks for bearing with me over there about my rant about what's happening in this country and all the other crap that's going on.
Well, I bought Donald Trump's other book today. It's Make America Great, the title of it. Mm-hmm. And I bought it. I couldn't find any on Hillary. I was over at Fred Meyer, and they didn't have any books about Hillary. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I've read his other book that was put out in late 80s, 89, I believe. It was The Art of the Deal. And I learned quite a bit how they do business over there. You know, he starts out with bank financing for his hotels or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then when he can't afford the interest, he floats junk bonds and other people pay for it, which is perfectly legal. And, of course, they earn interest on the bonds, theoretically. But anyway, I enjoyed reading the books. I just got the new one today, so I'm going to find out what the plan is. And I hope it's gone down a better path than we've been going on in the past, you know.
I totally agree. That's my biggest problem is that we've had nothing but a gutting of America since Obama has been in office. So.
And our president isn't even born here, I don't think.
No, he's not. No, I can go down a checklist of all the problems I have with him: treason, creating and assisting and orchestrating terror cells here in the United States that are created with Islamic terrorism. Yeah, I can go down a checklist. Trust me, Henry. I get livid about it, because our country is being destroyed. For somebody who's worked very hard all your life, what do you think about what's happening here in this country right now?
I don't like it, maybe we should move to Russia. That's what Ed Danes moved to Russia. He's been living in Moscow for a while. He was living in Hawaii for a long time. That's your remote viewer guy.
Dr. Doom. Yeah, I remember when he was out there. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, Dr. Doom. Yeah, he's been predicting the end of the world, which the latest stuff off YouTube there that Nibiru was supposed to collide with Earth sometime in September 2017. So you got a year to prepare, according to the internet anyway.
Well, considering what's happening in our country, I mean, I think Nibiru would be a blessing in disguise if that was the case. There's an America left by that time, right?
Well, our economy is failing up here in Alaska. The government can't manage the resources, and they won't let the people have any of them. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they'd have a tax-paying public and voting public. If we need a road to Russia to connect up with Nome, and you could drive to France across Siberia from Chicago or wherever, mm-hmm. And we'd actually have tourism here, and there'd be a lot of opportunities for people along the road, and service providers, service stations, etc. But anyway, I've been negotiating with both legislatures and senators here about that fact. They want to build a gas pipeline, but they won't get paid for 30 years the way things are going. Japanese are interested in buying the gas, but they don't want to pay very much for it. Mm-hmm. So there's no way they can make any money with it. And they want to use our money to do it, our permanent fund, which would be a big waste. It'll be gone.
Right.
But anyway.
Well, the road to Russia thing, I heard that before. So, I've heard that they were trying to do something like that, or they thought about it anyway. I agree with you. I think that
go ahead. Yeah. Rand Paul has a newspaper out, and they show maps connecting up with China to Russia all the way down through America to the very tip of South America, one giant road and tunnel system and whatever. And, it would just be linking the country. Apparently, the Earth had been surveyed at one time and was inhabited by prehistory people that had built roads and monuments all over the globe. Mm-hmm. But we're not doing it because of our environmental concerns or something else, But anyway, everybody's got on their mind now. There's more and more people believe that the humans are causing a climate change or global warming. Well, we're not seeing that here. We had September weather in August. Last summer, it got really windy in the end of July, which usually, end of August weather. It's a month early. Winter's setting on a month early. We have frost here this morning. For the last 4 or 5 days, we've got pretty heavy frost.
Oh, is that right?
So usually I don't get frost until October. Everything's a month early as far as the cooling goes.
That makes sense. Yeah, we noticed that up here actually, where I live in the Rockies. So yeah, it has been a little bit cooler. I'm anticipating a very hard winter actually. Hopefully not, but that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have too good a salmon season because the wind started to blow in mid-July, and we lost 3 very important fish periods when the sockeye or the red salmon were running. So it shorted us on the money supply. We don't have a whole lot of money this year, but we got enough to get by. And so anyway, I've got 2 books I'd like to publish. One is Surviving the New World Order, Staying out of the 800 FEMA camps, is the title of that one. And the other is Return of the Giants. It's about the Anunnaki. It's based on Zechariah Sitchin's translations of the Sumerian scrolls and his book on the amount of gold that was mined in South America. I mean, apparently when they were mining that gold, Antarctica was connected to South America because the Perry Reese maps show that. And those maps are very highly accurate. It shows the coastline of Antarctica under the ice within a half a degree of longitude. And there's bays and ports that a person could, avoid the weather. And if Antarctica was connected to South America, they wouldn't have the westerly winds and the terrible storms because the landmass would block the weather. So it would be very easy to transport gold over to Africa. They were mining gold in South Africa for 350,000 years. There's a city down there they're uncovering. It's twice the size of Los Angeles. And they weren't humans that did the mining. They were what's known as the Igigi. But the Sumerians had brought these workers in to mine the gold in South Africa. They tried to get it out of seawater when they first came here. King Anu sent his 2 sons, Enlil and Enki, and Enki was in charge of the mining in South Africa. But after they failed to get enough for their supply out of the seawater. And in this book, I found an audit of all the world's gold that all the nations of the world have on hand. It's an audit done by some organization. And the United States has 8,700 and some tons of gold, and Germany's number 2, and China's, I think, number 4. And it lists 4 pages of various organizations that hold gold. And we don't use it for trade anymore,
Right.
So what is it good for? Why are they hanging on to it? I think it's to pay off the aliens when they get back here, the Anunnaki.
Well, I
wouldn't call them aliens and such.
Yeah,
because they created mankind to mine gold.
I thought it was China that actually was hoarding all the gold, but you're saying that the United States has more gold?
Yeah, they're number 1 according to this audit.
Okay. What year is that audit made?
It's several years old.
Okay, yeah, okay. Interesting.
It lists individual gold holders. Some of them have 50 tons, 40, 30 tons. All right, mutual funds. Certain gold mutual funds are hoarding gold. They have around 50, 60, 70 tons. And it lists them all in the book. That I just cut and pasted the whole audit in there because it's good government information. But the reason these people, you need it for the planet Nibiru because they reduce it into the white powder of gold, which has anti-gravity properties. They burn it into this white powder. And it's used as a food supplement, and they also spray it in their atmosphere, and their entire planet is lush. Things grow on it real well and stays warm for the gold in the upper atmosphere. And around this country, the United States government has spent billions and billions of dollars over the last, since the Vietnam War, spraying boron and aluminum powder over the major cities and virus. And other unknown biobots that they're experimenting with lately here.
Right, with the chemtrails.
And this increases the healthcare industry. It's good for the healthcare industry because everybody's sick and gets immune diseases, etc. And Monsanto and Daniel Midland companies have developed crop seeds that can grow on aluminum contaminated soil. So it's tied in with some of the major corporations. One of the reasons they're doing this, I think. They all have their paid lobbyists in Congress. Right. And their congressmen, and they don't understand what's going on.
Well,
and they don't even know where the money's going,
Yeah, I'm really concerned about the people over there, and so far as their behavior and their ethics, it's really disturbing. No doubt about that. But yeah, so when is this book?
Evergreen Air. Well, I haven't got it published yet. I'm looking for a publisher for both books. They're about 130, 40 pages. Though there's quite a bit on the law, on surviving the New World Order, what types of law that we use. It's not common law, but they left themselves a way to force common law in the UCC, the Universal Commercial Code that they all use. And I put that in the book, this little caveats that lawyers can use.
That sounds really good. Well,
and to
yeah, we are heading that way. I mean, they're here now. I mean, insofar as this no world agenda, excuse me, I mean, it's literally here now, with everything that they're trying to do to control. The problem I have is that they really just want to bottleneck everything and control and manipulate everyone and everything. There's no productivity. It's a complete enslavement program.
Well, our legislature here in Alaska allowed concealed carry of firearms, and you're allowed to carry guns, theoretically. But the troopers went into my house last summer, and they took 6 guns out of my gun cabinet. The door wasn't locked. They just went in there, and they just took them.
What?
Took the guns, and
why?
They're old antique guns. Well, a neighbor next door got arrested for assault, and my house is next to where he was living, and I have no idea why they took them, and we're going to get them back. We have a lawyer working on it. But I had 2 shotguns, 2 12-gauge shotguns. One of them you don't even want to fire because it's a piece of junk. The other one was extremely old. And then there was an Enfield World War I rifle, that bolt action 30-06, that still fired. It had a new barrel put on it. You could, shoot a moose with it. And then I had a Ruger 300 Winchester Magnum bear gun, but
nice.
It only held 3 shots, and it tended to jam when you got a bear charging at you. So it made everything really exciting.
Oh, no kidding. So really, they go in without your permission and take your firearms?
Yeah, they just walked right in there.
I can't believe that's even happened. There. I can't believe that.
Yeah, I can't believe it either. That's crazy. They stole my wife's .44 Magnum pistol. It's a very small one, and I'm afraid to shoot it. It kicks real bad as a hair trigger. I tried shooting it once, and it went off before I could even pull the trigger. Maybe my ham hands nudged it too much and shot in the beach sand in front of me. I never touched it since.
Wow, I'm really surprised to hear this, Henry. That really bothers me that they just think that you can just come in and take people's firearms. I mean, that's just not supposed to be happening here in this country. So I hope you do have a lawyer on it and you get your firearms back. How long ago was this going on? I mean, how long ago did this happen? You said last summer?
Yeah, it was last June. Okay. We were just starting to fish the first day of fishing season, June 16th. And anyway, it's a long story. It's crazy. Everything's nuts anymore. You can't understand it. And I'm hoping that things straighten out a little bit.
Right. Can I just ask who they were again?
In the future.
Were they military? Who are these people? Were they military or just regular police?
No, they're Alaska State Troopers, and they hire people that come out of the military, and they've been programmed by our military, when they get the job. So some of them are a little out of control. On the news here lately, on the news broadcast, it's constant shootings every day. Somebody's getting murdered by the police with no gun or anything, or maybe he did have a gun and they're found the pistol laying later, and on every day. So there's something going on here. They're creating it's divide and conquer is the old war thing. Our own government's at war with its people, and the people don't understand it yet. They haven't really clued in on it.
Can I ask you something?
And that's why I wrote the 2 books.
Yeah, right. So when you said that the constant shootings are going on every day, but that's escalated, right? It seems to me like Alaska really didn't have that high of a crime rate. Am I wrong or what?
No, we have more murders in Anchorage, Alaska, since the beginning of the year than about 3 times more than they've ever had, either murders
Gosh.
or shootings of some kind.
Wow.
It's really escalating, and I don't know why. Maybe
Well, do you have
that
any illegals there? I mean, have you had any drop-offs with invaders, so to speak? I mean, I'll put it nicely, but I know that they're dumping different types of invaders. They call them immigration, or they can call them whatever the hell they want. But the bottom line is, we're getting a lot of people from Syria and everything else over here. I was wondering, did you get a bunch of them over there?
they're talking about allowing M&Ms to come in here. We've already got a crew of Mexicans that have come over the border, and they're illegal aliens, and they work here digging clams.
Are they criminals though?
I
That means
live way over. Not really, no.
Okay.
They're just hardworking people who are trying to make a living.
Mm-hmm.
There's a company, they sold out to a larger corporation based in Seattle, Washington. The original company was Damien Seafoods, and they've been processing razor clams for 25 years over here in North Kenai. And anyway, they had 6 Mexicans, this is 3 years ago, in a 20-foot skiff, and they put 5,000 pounds of razor clam. That's what they said, the news said there, in the skiff, and the wind came up a little northeasterly. One of the guys walked home along the beach, and then there was 4 of them in the skiff, or 5 of them. They tried to make it about 12 miles up the beach to Polly Creek, where they have their camp, and the skiff swamped and they all drowned. It was early last part of May, I believe. It was cold weather and windy. Mm-hmm. Wind can blow down Cook Inlet and create a chop, so the skiff sunk. And we had a C-130 flying over our place and looking around right away. Somebody called the Coast Guard, and they found the bodies, I guess, and they were all illegal aliens in the country illegally, and they hired more from Seattle. I guess their relatives can't sue the company because they don't have any legal status.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I don't understand why they just can't, become legal. You know what I mean? This is the problem I have, is that everything is done through no paperwork, obviously, and there's no vetting. So I do have a big issue with all of that. So how long ago did you see the C-130 though? That was earlier on, right?
They have fly them around all the time. I got pictures I was reviewing yesterday. I left accidentally. I took a guy with me in my little plane, and I had it in the hangar, and he bumped the EPIRB. It was mounted on the left side of the passenger compartment. He didn't know what it was, and he accidentally turned it on, so he had a 121.5 megahertz broadcast, and the C-130 flew over, and he kept circling the house, and made dive-bombing passes at him.
Oh, God.
Finally, he dropped a funny-looking parachute that had a note on it saying that the EPIRB was on, so I ran over my plane and turned it off.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, it's not, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it was. Anyway, it was the Air Force, I believe. They do routine patrols over there looking for the Taliban, I guess. That's what we joke about.
Well, they should go to D.C. if they're looking for that.
There's nobody there,
Just tell them to go to D.C. That's where they are, right in the White House.
No kidding, yeah.
You know what's interesting? I saw a C-130 a couple weeks ago over my house, and he was going so low I thought they were going to crash. I was like, what the hell is he doing? He almost looked like he was going to crash. And I mean, this thing was like a whale over my head. I've never seen those guys.
Well, exactly. They're big, and they got, I don't remember the designation of the new ones. They got all new ones now, and they gave our C-130s away to some African nation over there.
Interesting. Well, this one didn't have any markings. It just looked like that really dark military green. Is that what this one looked like, or no?
No, they were kind of gray, dark gray color.
I noticed this one had more of a green hue to it, the one I saw. But yeah, I thought it was interesting because we don't get that over here. So you see an escalation and that sort of thing happening in Alaska then.
Well, getting back to that chemtrail thing, Air America was spraying Parquat and defoliating the jungles in South Vietnam and Cambodia, trying to disturb the crops and poppy crops that were funding the war over there with the war effort. They can't run a war without drugs, apparently. Mm-hmm. So after the Vietnam War ended, they brought all the planes over to a place in Arkansas, and gee, I can't think of the name of the town, but anyway, they renamed the organization Evergreen Air. Now you can look that up yourself, Evergreen Air. And they use the same planes, and they're flying, trying to over Mexico to destroy the pot fields over there for quite a few years after the Vietnam War. Mm-hmm. But I had pictures that I put in of the planes themselves in the airport, and the tanks that they have inside of them for this defoliating chemicals that they use.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Hey, have you guys?
I'm looking for a publisher.
Okay. Well, I'll put the word out for you. I have some people in mind. I'm not sure if they're still publishing, but I'll look into it for you if you're interested. Are the books complete already?
Well, I have some hard copies, but they're rough drafts and they're not complete at all. Okay. But I have some hard copies that I put in a ring binder, and I like to. They're really interesting. There are a lot of pictures. I put a lot of giant pictures in The Return of the Giants because they're finding giant skeletons all over the world. Some of them are over 30 feet tall. Mm-hmm. And if you had somebody that size, it wouldn't be too big a problem to build a pyramid. They just put the block where you want it with one hand, Mm-hmm. 5-ton blocks, stack them up like a child. But they're digging them up in Russia and everywhere. Different thigh bones and skulls. You see a lot of it on the internet. Just type giants in the internet.
Well, we haven't had some here. I mean, I've had guests on talking about that as well. Jason Jarrell is one of them, and he's awesome about the giants. But yeah, Smithsonian's done a big cover-up with those types of things currently.
So anyway, I got to thinking, why do they build these buildings with 30-foot tall columns and 15, 20-foot wide doorways, like the Parthenon in ancient Greece and the temple in Dendra, Egypt, and this huge structures, wide doors, and even King Solomon's temple. And King Solomon had a hot tub that was 20 feet in diameter. They'd light a fire underneath this thing, and high sides. I guess that's so they could take a bath when they arrived here. And they copied the same architecture in Washington, D.C. You've got the Lincoln Memorial. Abe Lincoln's up there at least 20 feet tall. He's sitting down. Mm-hmm. It's got these huge columns in front of him. And so these guys don't bump their heads when they walk in to visit, I guess. When the average person at that time, when they built those ancient temples in Greece and in Egypt and all over, average person was only about 4 feet tall, and he was a goat herder. So who are they trying to impress? The goat herders? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, what comes to mind are the Titans, and the ancient Greek gods, which kind of dovetails into the
Why
giants.
would they go to all that trouble just to impress the goat herders? They didn't really have a voting public at the time, I don't think. Mm-hmm. But
well, it sounds like a very interesting book.
Weren't capable of lifting the stones as small people. They're 4 or 5 feet tall. They did analyze some Neanderthal bones, and they're much thicker than our bones, the thigh bones, and the way the tendons are attached. And they figure that a Neanderthal, a 5-foot, 5-inch guy could maybe lift 2,000 pounds or something possible. Mm-hmm. And I had posted that a long time ago on a blog, and I found some research on it where they had done some of the tests on their bones. They're much thicker than ours, built for survival. So are they throwbacks to some of the giants? We don't know. Mm-hmm. And a small percentage of our DNA, they say, is Neanderthal DNA, depending what part of the country you're from. Africans have no Neanderthal DNA, but Europeans, Germans, Scandinavians have maybe 5%, 3%, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so there was some interbreeding going on for a long period of time. We used to joke about my father being part Neanderthal because he was a strong man in the circus.
Oh, really?
And he did a lot of things, yeah. He spoke 7 languages and could play about every musical instrument.
Wow. So what does the strong man do at the circus? What is he doing?
I wrote a book about him also. It's called Alaska's Mad Trapper.
Mm-hmm. Right, I remember that, yeah.
Anyway, one of the major things on people's minds is there's still a lot of people believe that humans are causing global warming. And I did quite a bit of research in my book on actual causes of global warming or global dimming from all the ash that's pumped into the atmospheres. And in my book, Cosmological Ice Ages, in the second half of it, there's all articles on the bees dying from electromagnetic radiation, and lots of different articles on how we could get to these other star systems and the technology involved, and also incidences of UFO encounters by ancient peoples, including the oldest encounters, and some biblical mentions of UFO encounters and encounters with angels, and like Gabriel, who supposedly impregnated Mary, creating Jesus. So anyway, it's all in there. It's in the back of the book. But global warming, getting back to that, and the human effect on global warming, it might be like the butterfly effect, where if you go back in time, you step on a butterfly, and you go back to the present time, and everything would be different. Like the Simpsons movie, where some of the universes he came back to were all donuts. Raining donuts.
Right, I remember.
Which was a good thing.
Yeah, that was cute. Yeah,
anyway, when I wrote the book, the current consumption of oil was 90 billion barrels of oil, the world consumption per day. That's for 90 billion barrels of oil per day. And the oil used in the refining and transporting it to market, you got to add that in there also. So divide that by the number of hours in a day to find out the total number of barrels consumed per hour. Then multiply this by the number of BTUs in a barrel, and the waste heat from atomic power plants, natural gas, rice paddies, rotting garbage, huge cattle, and then convert the watts into all that into watts is a big job. And after a while, you got to kind of give up on it after a while, because it's so many factors. Waste heat from atomic power plants, just everything down the line. But what we found when we were doing the research for this book, it's surprising the results, that the amount of heat where it comes from on Earth. You would think that the sun is the sole source of heat, but it's not. You see, the sun only imparts about 1,200 watts per square meter on the equator at noon in Africa or someplace, it's around 1,200 watts per square meter. But, half the day is dark, so you got to cut that in half to 600 watts, and then it works out to about 430 watts, and you average it out over the entire surface of the globe. A lot of the polar regions don't even get sunlight, so it's around 400 watts per square meter. And you can figure the total of square meters on the Earth by simply multiplying radius times pi cubed, your cube root of pi, And anyway, the square of a sphere is radius times pi cubed. So anyway, you can figure out the number of watts that the sun puts on there. And then we got to looking at the lunar gravity of the moon itself, and it seems to put out almost twice as much force on the Earth as the sun, maybe more. It's 20 joules per second of the gravitational energy on the Earth, which is enough to stir the magma underneath your feet, and it keeps the Earth warm. Now, it seems like most planets, all planets, formations, during the formation period, they're kind of like liquid material, and they're bringing in elements of all kinds. And since they are liquid, the heavier ones would settle more toward the core. I don't know, just the heavier elements maybe provide more gravitational force. I'm not sure how this works, but the cores of these planets and moons are heavier radioactive elements like thorium and radon, or radium, I mean. And granite gives off radon gas because it's got radium in it. and these are really nasty stuff, these chemicals.
Right.
I mean, radioactive stuff is, thorium ranks 34th in abundance on the crust of the Earth. So actually the Earth is a thorium reactor. It's like a big atomic pile with heavy elements at the center. And that's what keeps it so hot down there is the radiation. And when they drill for oil, they bring up a lot of that radioactive material and waste in their drill tailings. And I had a yard full of used drill pipe in my welding business at one time. They says, don't weld on that, don't go near it because it's radioactive. And it's hard to weld. It kind of blows the metal away when you're welding it. But anyway, it's quite nasty stuff that the center of these planets. And they noticed that there's extra heat on the moons of Jupiter. And one of the lady astronomers assumed that it had something to do with the radioactive material that they're made out of at the core. And that's most of the warming comes from that. But the moon's gravitational energy keeps us stirred up to where it's quite warm. And the reason it affects the climate is the undersea volcanoes more than any other thing. And I don't think humans have a very much of an effect on the climate of Earth, even though we are dumping out billions of barrels of oil a day. And when China comes online, that could be maybe half again as much oil being burnt and coal. Anyway, it's there's a 800 million year accumulation of carbon laid down.
That's quite a bit
on Earth, in the form of coal and oil.
What about the contributing factor of chemtrails warming up the atmosphere a little bit more and blocking the sun? Wouldn't you say that would create kind of like an extra blanket of heat?
The greenhouse theory is that it would create heat, but then again, it blocks the sun's rays, and if it's white, it reflects sunlight back into space, so it actually tend to be cooler. When you got rain or rain clouds, you notice the temperature is cooler than on a hot, sunny day, depending on your location.
Right.
But water vapor is the biggest greenhouse gas there is. It's like 50 or 100 times more than carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide as a greenhouse, more effective anyway. That's been proven. But
it's very, very interesting stuff. What year did you publish that book, The Cosmological Ice Ages?
I forgot. It was 2006, I think, or 7.
Oh, yeah, it's a great book. I would encourage. Yeah, go ahead.
There's so much information in there that I forget what I put in there, myself. I can't even, read the thing. It's a little complicated for some people. And it's trying to figure out how the actual cause of any climate change on Earth. And, it's gravitational energy, I think, is the biggest factor of the moon itself and possibly other planetary bodies as it rotates around the sun. And, there's a bulge on the Earth about 1.5 feet high just from rotating around every 24 hours at the equator. Across moves up and down just from the gravity of the sun.
Right. Well, it's a great book, so it's still in print, right? People can still get a hold of it.
Yes, it's still available on Amazon and on my websites, which are Guard Dog Books and AlaskaPublishing.com.
Okay, great. I put those in the chat too, by the way, so good. Your links.
Well, yeah, I have a nonprofit, and I'm busy right now trying to get a monastery together for this, a school. It's called Workforce Training School, and we can use some help with that.
Nice.
And we teach all the different things that in the trades, all the job trades, carpentry, welding, etc., plumbing.
That's great.
And I have certified teachers.
So that's in motion?
We have a fishing business. So the fishing, we teach commercial fishing. We teach people how to gut salmon properly and cure salmon for smoking and smoking process. And they need workers in the cannery, so that's what we're doing now. And then also we mend nets and hang nets for salmon. and we could strip the old nets and hang new web on them. Cork lines and lead lines every year. We do 2 or 3 of those. And you have to teach people how to do it every time, how to tie the knots, and how to measure the distance between the hangings, etc.
Right.
And
I think that's wonderful.
I just take it for granted because we've done it so long. That's what we do. So it's our way of life.
And
we earn the original dollar, by the way.
What's that?
Not many people earn the original dollar.
Oh, that's true. Yep, that's very, very true. So is this school actually active right now?
Yeah, so we have a couple acres here and where we're living, and we have music lessons and different things going on. My wife has a weaving. Also, she's got a spinning wheel and a whole bunch of wool that's brought up from Oregon.
That's
awesome. Got to card this wool and then spin it into yarn.
I think that's great. Wow. Well, that's what people need to learn. I don't think most people know how to survive, period. So, learning a trade or a skill is really critical.
We may need these skills the way things are going. If we have a economy collapse or governments collapse, the governments rise and fall. They've happened in the past. Even the most powerful ones on earth, like Rome, didn't make it.
Right. Well, this one's being assimilated. There's no doubt that we are being absorbed into the UN. There's no doubt about that at all. So, yeah. Speaking of which, do you ever see any?
I'm fighting some.
What's that?
I'm just fighting some paper here, trying to get the page turned.
I was going to ask you if do you ever notice any UN vehicles around there, or anything suspicious, anything strange, out of the norm?
There were a fleet of vehicles. They weren't UN, but they were Army vehicles heading down this last spring toward Homer. Maybe they have a National Guard station down there. I don't know, but they were armored carriers for personnel carriers and for troops, sort of. I don't know what they were doing down there.
Yeah, I'm always wondering.
I have no idea,
Well, I always look for the unusual or things that are out of the norm. That's why I asked. But, things are auspicious right now. Let's put it that way. Very auspicious. So what's your impression of...
anyway,
go ahead.
When Obama came to Alaska, they brought him up here. There was no bums on 4th Avenue or 5th Avenue. There's sometimes quite a few homeless people or just people out there panhandling, and that hang out on 4th Avenue. And they were all disappeared when he showed up. I don't know what they did with them all.
Wow.
And one black lady called into one of the radio talk shows, and she said that they took him down to 75th and Old Seward Highway to look at the new mosque they were building. And they cut her right off the air. They didn't want to hear that.
Oh, wow. Amazing. So are you getting a lot of people coming over from the Middle East? Are you getting drop-offs over there?
I don't know. Couldn't really tell you. I went to a restaurant in Seward. My son bought a racing sailboat. He's got it in the water yesterday, finally.
Nice.
It's a 12 meter racing sloop. It's a C class. The mast is 60 foot tall. And anyway, we went to a restaurant right near where he had the boat stored, and the people were from the Middle East that were cooking hamburgers. And a man and his daughter, they're probably from Syria or someplace. I'm not sure where they were. They have a different, accent.
Right. Well, I believe in the melting pot, but there's definitely some other things happening here that are not part of that equation. So that's why I've asked. And of course, you said the crime went up, and I was curious insofar as what's spiking the crime. What's causing that? Is it an invasion or an intrusion from something else, or is it just the regular people just flipping out? So, yeah, it's very interesting.
Well, the pressures they're putting us under is causing a lot of people to flip out. That's the thing. And
yeah, people are losing it, Henry. I see that. Yeah, I see a lot of crazy activity lately, globally, but also here in America. It's like, I don't know what's happening, but people are really just getting very violent. Even some of these riots and these protests, I mean, they're absolutely insanity in motion. So, yeah, there's some weird stuff happening here. This is strange. And you think of Alaska as being kind of like a safe zone insofar as more, just kind of more expanded and away from people in general. little more isolated, perhaps. I guess not, though.
Well, maybe Donald can sort it out by vetting some of the people that are immigrants that are here and sending some back to reduce the amount of strife from the people that came here to do harm, to
well, that's the whole
terrorists, whatever.
Well, that's the whole thing. They don't even bother to vet.
Yeah,
that's what makes me so angry is that they're not doing anything to screen these people. They're coming over and they're committing crimes. They have terror cells. FBI's confirmed that there are terror cells here in the United States right now. They're not doing anything unless they move. And even if they do they're just going to create some kind of a false flag behind it. I'm so tired of this game. I mean, this is absolutely insane. It's destroying our country and nation, completely ripping it off, completely gutting it. Makes me sick. And then, he's in there in the D.C. area with a smirk on his face. He's happy to destroy America. He hates this country. It's so clear to me. It's so clear. I don't know why people can't see it.
Well, I'm not sure how this works, but, I think about this stuff quite a bit. And the entire world economic system, all the countries are in dire straits because they keep borrowing money from the central banks, and the banks own them. They own everything. Italy already failed. They had to give them extra loans just to keep them going, bail them out. And all they got over there is tourism left over, I guess. They don't have any original dollars coming in. In order to keep any economy going, you have to have original dollars from something that you can get your hands on, a resource like gold, silver, fish, oil, or something that you get out of the ground, and you sell that and you get dollars for it. But when you're doing service businesses, those are not religious or original dollars. Like all your medical professionals, all your lawyers and stuff, they're all just parasiting on existing dollars that are flowing around. Well, each time a dollar changes hands, the local governments and the federal government gets a percentage of it with either sales tax or income tax or something. And so eventually the people wind up with nothing because the original dollars disappear. And if you don't have enough of them coming in, then the economies fail. It's original dollars that we need. We need resources in order to survive.
Right.
And the way the banking system is set up, it works that way to where the bankers become richer and richer as time goes by. And all the governments themselves, they can't exist on the amount of taxation that they steal from us,
right.
to use a word. They have to keep borrowing it. And then, they're throwing trillions of dollars. And there's another number that's even larger than a trillion, and we're going to be up into that number here pretty soon. And all the nations of the world, Germany and all of them, they're bringing in these foreign immigrants. They're raping women in Norway and on the streets and all over in Germany and Switzerland. They're destroying those countries with foreign immigrants. They're bringing them in. And the governments themselves are doing this for one specific reason, just to keep afloat, because they're all on the verge of bankruptcy. They're all ready to shut down, and the only way they can keep going is they have to keep borrowing money to create housing for these foreign people that are coming in. And then they have to give them welfare so that they can eat. And this allows the farms and whatever to get money for their produce. The farmers produce original dollars, by the way, because they go out and they, grow things and sell them. But anyway, they make it tough on the farmers. Yes, some of them are out there with the streets vendors, trying to get rid of their produce. It's just pitiful to see that for me,
Oh, it is.
It's like third world nation, monkey motion there. So, they create, when you got millions of people drawing welfare checks and government checks and totally dependent on their housing and everything, their job or whatever, from the government, of course, the government gets the voters. They'll vote for whatever they want, see? And that's a form of slavery. So the whole world is being enslaved with this big plan that's to keep everything afloat, and the bankers seem to be behind it all.
Yeah, well, they certainly want to take down the West.
The guys that own the banks. So this is what I see and how I can analyze the financial situation. And I'm not a CPA, and CPAs don't understand this either. Nobody seems to get it. But you have to have original dollars in order to have a country or an economy of any kind.
Exactly.
And
Well,
the only reason I earn original dollars. We go out and we harvest salmon. Mary's a really hard worker, my wife, and she made me work this summer. I pick nets, fish out of nets with her, and run the outboard, and then I run the tender during the night across Cook Inlet, and it's a very rough body of water. I make 22 one-way round trips every year. That's 44 one-way trips across this area, and it's like 54 miles trip one way. And I got caught in rough weather about 5 times, or 5-6 foot seas I consider to be rough anymore. And then it started blowing in 30-40 knots in the middle of July, so we couldn't fish, and I didn't bother running the tender for 2 weeks. And that cost us a lot of money. My neighbors couldn't fish either. I tender salmon for my neighbors. I bring their fish to town and haul their mail back and their food and different things, and dog food and whatever.
So if you have a bad season like that, how do you get by? I mean, what do you do to supplement that?
Well, I sell a few books, but not very many. And I had a yard sale, but I haven't been able to sell anything in the yard sale. I've been hauling a lot of it to the dump. But,
you work so hard, I applaud you for your hard work. It's, you're actually a benchmark of what American people are about, really, on so many different levels of what we used to be about. And, we were talking about all this stuff that's going on a global scale. And it does seem to me like they're trying to make this country into a third world country and just totally destroy it. I see so much of our heritage getting washed away, things that are really significant that we've been able to do on our own. Everything's outsourced now. It's just, I can go on and on. It's very disgusting to me. And it makes me wonder, what kind of future anybody has here in America if we don't turn it around.
Well, I don't know what's going to turn it around. Maybe new technology would help, or we should be colonizing other planets by now, that we've been held back on our evolutionary development here. And been talking about getting men on Mars. They may already have sent people over there. I don't really know.
Yeah,
and they may have a base on the moon already. There's talk about it.
There's a black space program for sure. There's definitely a black sciences department with the exotic technologies, and a lot of that's, well, that's beyond classified. But still, yeah, it seems like there are two worlds, colliding. And this world right now is so dysfunctional. I don't see how it can keep functioning, even when they're trying to control and manipulate it with one world order, which I'm glad you wrote a book on that. Insofar as surviving, I like the title, Surviving the New World Order. That's a really good title. So, yeah, sums it up, really.
Well, from what I can gather, they also have 30,000 guillotines stashed away in Georgia and different other places.
Oh, yeah, I remember hearing about that. Wasn't that with the FEMA camps or something? I put pictures of the guillotines in the book. They look kind of high-tech, modern, more modern, Well, let me tell you something, Henry.
Compact.
Or let me ask you something, because the only people that really use guillotines are Muslims, isn't it? They're big on head chopping, right? Isn't that interesting?
I don't know. Some French guy invented this thing. I guess his name was guillotine or something.
Well, it's interesting, though. I mean, as far as
his head off.
Their weapon of choice to destroy people and to execute people is the guillotine. And I think that's interesting because that's one of the things they do out there in the Middle East. So once again, you see the strategic maneuver of Islam and the terror cells that are activated here. And I'm very clear in so far as profiling that. I've been doing a lot of research, and I know I have accuracy in that data. But yeah, it's interesting. So I'll have to take a good look at your book. I'm really interested in reading it. I'm sure the listeners are as well. So we'll be happy to read that when it goes live. And you can. Do you have it in a PDF yet or anything like that, or you're just still fine tuning?
Well, I can attach a file to email. And there's a lot of pictures, in both of them. Well, not too many in Surviving the New World Order, but, the other one, I try to put as many pictures of these giant buildings with big, tall columns in there, for the giants. So, according to this Zachariah Sitchin's, when this King Eno comes to the planet here and visits, they have to entertain him and his other guards or people that go with him, his son.
Henry, hang on for a second. We're going to switch gears. We're just heading for a break here. Everybody, please stay tuned. We're listening to Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I'm Solaris Blue Ribbon. My wonderful guest tonight is Captain Henry Kroll. We'll be right back.